Hey, it's Crispy Patty, and we're continuing the story of Frozen 2, The Enchanted Forest. Picking up at chapter 5. If you're seeing this video, there are two previous videos of chapters 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So, taking advantage of some social distancing and reading to you. I'm a preschool teacher during the day. I'm actually working half the hours due to the regulations. As a preschool teacher, we're first responders, so we're helping parents who are out there helping others. So we're with their kids, and it's been a joy to watch the kids interact with other kids who normally may not be interacting with them because of the size of the class is much bigger when something like this is not going on. And of course it allows me to really get to know the handful of students. So it's been a joy. All right, let's go. Elsa! Anna's voice rang out through the forest. She picked up speed as she looked behind bushes and over ridges, her voice growing louder with concern. Elsa didn't hear her sister calling. She was walking among the giant trees, lost in thought. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath of the crisp air, but she sensed something. There was a prickling sensation on the back of her neck, and her eyes shot open. She spun around, immediately ready to face whatever was following her. At that moment, Anna rushed to her side. Elsa was surprised when she saw Anna. "Elsa, there you are," she said, thrilled to see that her sister was safe. "You okay?" "I'm fine," Elsa answered distantly. Anna breathed a sign of relief. "Okay, good." But the moment of calm didn't last long. Anna looked around again, wearing a worried expression. "Where's Olaf?" The two of them glanced in every direction, but didn't see the little snowman anywhere. The girls joined forces with Kristoff and Sven and immediately began searching the area. Off in a distant part of the woods, Olaf happily skipped across the forest floor. He was thoroughly enjoying exploring every inch of the amazing, magical, delightful place. "Anyone else feel like they're being watched?" he asked, not realizing he had. And before I move on, there's a quick photo of Elsa in the forest. Yeah, anyone else feel like they're being watched? He asked, not realizing he had strayed so far from his group. "Anyone? No one? I'm alone?" Olaf looked around, wondering where everyone had gone. "Anna, Elsa, Sven, Samantha," he cracked up, chuckling to himself. I don't even know a Samantha," he added. Just then, a strong gust of wind whooshed by. It rushed behind him, sending a shiver up his back. "Whoa!" Olaf said, spinning around, thinking someone was there. Seeing nobody, he shrugged it off. Crack! A thick branch above him split and made a loud popping noise. Then a pile of leaves fell on his head. "That's normal," said Olaf, shaking them off. He didn't want to admit it, but he was starting to feel a little bit nervous. As he started to walk away, a rock fell right in front of him. He had seemed to come from nowhere, causing him to trip. He fell flat on his face and got a mouthful of dirt. Before he could get up, a geyser burst from the ground beneath him. The water soaked him, and as it pushed him back up to standing, Olaf remained still for a moment, wondering exactly what was going on. Then he heard something scampering in the trees above. "What was that?" he asked, cautiously, looking up. As he continued walking, the earth before him broke open, and suddenly he was staring down into what looked like an endless black hole. He slowly backed away from the edge of the pit. "Samantha?" he asked, his voice now quaking with fear. The realization that he was alone in the strange place finally hit him. The enchanted forest didn't seem so amazing, magical, and delightful now. It was terrifying. A black line that sizzled with heat sent up smoke as it burned straight through a lush mound of star moss. It picked up speed, charring everything in its path. Zooming toward him, he leaped out of the way a moment before the black line could run across his leg. Struggling to calm his nerves, he told himself that everything he was experiencing was normal. Olaf was sure that his grown-up friends were there. They would tell him things were completely fine. He was certain that when he grew up, he would know all kinds of things he didn't yet know, like that everything happening in the forest right now was not out of the ordinary. Olaf would later look back on this and laugh. It would all make sense to him in the future. He was sure of it. Keeping a positive outlook, he walked through a thick cluster of trees, trying to find his way back to the group. Vines twisted around gnarled tree branches above and around him, making the area dark and spooky. But Olaf bravely pressed on. Several pairs of glowing eyes peered at him, staring through bushes. He could only imagine the creatures behind those creepy gazes. Olaf winced and said weakly, "Excuse me?" trying hard to remain polite, even as he fought to keep it together. He hurried ahead. Olaf came upon a clearing with a small stream. He looked at his reflection in the water, hoping the sight would be a comfort. But his face looked warped and weird in the creek's ripples. It only made him feel worse. Then Olaf's reflection changed. Now he was looking at a strange creature. Olaf touched his face, but it felt the same. He suddenly realized that the creature wasn't him. It was something that was staring up at him from beneath the surface of water. Unable to stay calm for another second, he let out a loud shriek. "Ah!" Sparks immediately erupted, causing a nearby bush to burst into crackling flames. Olaf took one look and screamed even louder. The snowman's screams ended only when he ran out of breath. Oddly, the fire instantly went out. Olaf looked at the smoldering bushes, smoking and charred from the burn, and tilted his head curiously. He forced a small smile, reassuring himself once again that one day he would understand that all these things had a perfectly logical explanation, just like the facts he liked to quote. But one thing he truly understood at the moment was that he needed to find Elsa and the others. Olaf looked up and saw trees swaying nearby. Then more trees began to move, and he could sense the strong wind whooshing and whirling, shoving the trees aside. It picked up speed, making its way toward him. "This is fine," he said, even as his eyes got bigger. And when the wind reached him, it swooped Olaf up and tossed him into the air. It swirled him all around, separating his body parts and sending them flying every which way. Olaf did the only thing he could. He cried out for his friends. Chapter 6. When they heard Olaf's calls for help, the group rushed to find him. They were shocked to see his parts swooshing and whooshing around in the air. Olaf was thrilled to see everyone, but just then the wind grabbed at his friends and swept them up too. They flailed and flopped as they were flung through the air like giant juggling balls. The wind whipped everything else in its path too. Leaves, twigs, and dust swirled inside the giant cyclone. Olaf's head flew by and cheerfully said, "Hey guys, coming through," said Kristoff, sailing past Elsa. But Elsa barely noticed. Instead, she was reminded of how the wind in Arendelle had pushed the villagers out of their homes. She realized that the wind that held them now was probably one of the spirits of the enchanted forest. When Anna's skirt blew over her head, she was grateful that she was also wearing underpants. The wind spirit spun her wildly like a top. "I think I'm going to be sick," she said, groaning. Olaf's smiling face swung by again. I'd hold your hair back, but I can't find my arms, he exclaimed. Kristoff and Sven zipped around inside the twister in different directions. They collided and were forced even higher inside the chaos. Kristoff grumbled as he tried to grab hold of Sven. Sven stretched toward him, but the wind spirit made it difficult for him to control their movements. It looked like they were performing an unusual dance. A thick tree branch snapped off with a loud crack and was sucked into the whirlwind. Elsa gasped when she saw it zip toward Anna. Without a second thought, Elsa used her power to flip the branch out of the cyclone before it slammed into her sister. While it seemed that no one else noticed, here's a photo. What Elsa had done, the wind spirit did. Its velocity and force changed and it began swirling around her hands as if it were curious. Hey, stop! Shouted Elsa. Then with an enormous whoosh, the wind spirit blew Kristoff, Sven, Anna, and all of Olaf's parts from its grasp. They tumbled to the ground. As they rose to their feet and tried to get their bearings, they saw that Elsa was still wrapped inside the cyclone. It twisted and whipped around faster and faster, tightening its grip on her. Elsa, Anna shouted, still feeling dizzy from all the spinning. She, Kristoff, and Sven tried to get close to Elsa, but the wind spirit was too powerful, and it pushed them back. They tried again and again, but the wind spirit knocked them away every time. They couldn't get anywhere near the twister. Elsa knew she had to do something. She raised her arms and summoned her ice power, cautiously releasing a steady stream of snow. As the snow mixed with the wind, it turned to slush and the cyclone began to slow. Soon she was spinning a thick white blur. The twister continued to solidify and slow down, but Elsa was still trapped inside. She felt strange in the slushy funnel. It suddenly seemed that she was in another world. Mysterious sounds rang out all around her, mixing with the vibration of the wet snow rushing by. She could hear human voices, animal noises, and what sounded like echoes of the enchanted forest. Some of the sounds were clear and appeared to be snippets of conversations. She found herself lost in it all, listening and eager to hear more. Her eyes shot open when she distinctly heard a man's voice urgently cry, "Prince Agnar!" The sound of her father's name snapped her back to the present moment and reminded her of her important mission. She had to focus, find the mysterious voice, and return the elements of air, fire, water, and earth to Arendelle. But the first thing she had to do was find her way out of the bizarre storm. Closing her eyes, she drew a deep breath and gathered all her power. She threw her arms open wide and flooded the windstorm with her magic. She heard another voice say, "For Arendelle!" Just as the wind stopped and a blindly bright flash of white appeared, snow filled the air and for a moment everything was utterly still. The group stood staring at the endless sea of white. The heavy fall of snow blocked out everything, making it impossible to see what lay before them. It's a small picture of Elsa, their powers. Chapter 7. As the snowfall thinned to gentle flurries, the group looked around. Beautiful statues made of ice were scattered everywhere. It was as if the friends had suddenly been transported to a wintry sculpture garden, with Elsa, the sculpture's creator, standing at the very center. The life-size statues looked like they had been carved by a master sculptor. They were incredibly detailed and conveyed life and emotion. There was a young Arendellian soldier wearing a courageous expression, holding his sword and shield high, battling an unseen opponent. There were two Northuldra women fiercely racing forward, holding their staffs firmly above them. There were two soldiers huddled together, Every sculpture told its own story. What are these? Asked Kristoff. They look like moments in time, said Elsa, fascinated. Just like the other night in Arendelle, being inside the windstorm had helped her power grow in a new, mysterious way. She couldn't believe her magic had created such amazing works of art. Anna turned to Olaf. What's that thing you say, Olaf? She asked. He smiled. Oh, my theory about advancing technology as both our savior and our doom? Anna shook her head. No, not that one. The one about cucumbers? Olaf asked excitedly, eager to discuss his thoughts on the delightful, crunchy green thing and whether it was a fruit or a vegetable. No, the thing about water, said Anna. Oh, yeah, said Olaf. Water has memory. True fact. It's disputed, but true. They looked at the statues again, wondering if they were looking at actual moments in time. Each sculpture was so realistic it seemed possible. Their friends wondered whether each represented something that had really happened, and whether the people had once been real. Anna scanned the surrounding statues, wondering if they could provide answers to the many questions she still had about the enchanted forest and her father's story. Just then the wind spirit returned, sweeping gently around Olaf. Oh, the wind's back, he said. I think I'll name you Gale. Everybody tensed, preparing for another possible storm, as Gale breezed around Anna and lifted Elsa off her feet. Elsa quickly realized the wind was no longer aggressive. Oh, I'm okay, she said as Gale put her down. The wind spirit swirled around the ice sculptures. Did you want me to make these? Elsa asked. Gale rattled some leaves together as if in response to the question. Then Gale created a small opening in the trees, begging the group to move toward a sculpture that stood apart from the rest. The friends curiously formed a half circle around it. The statue portrayed a very dramatic scene of a boy being carried in the arms of a girl. The boy appeared to be unconscious as the girl cradled him. The girl's expression was one of concern and determination. Suddenly, Anna gasped. Father, she said, looking at the statue's face. The features were very distinct. She was certain it was King Agnar as a boy. That's father, she repeated, gently touching its icy surface. Here's a picture. Elsa leaned in and nodded. Then she looked closely at the young girl. She could see the girl was struggling with the weight of the prince. She could also see the fortitude reflected in the girl's face that would see her through the crisis. This girl, Elsa said. How? She's saving him, interrupted Olaf. She's Northuldra, said Kristoff. Elsa and Anna exchanged a look. The story of their father mysteriously making it out of the enchanted forest on the day of the battle popped into their minds. They had always wondered who had saved their father. Even he hadn't known. Somehow, someone saved me. He'd said while telling the story. It looked like this statue was showing them who that someone was, a Northuldra girl. The sisters were shocked to think that a Northuldra, one of the people who had supposedly tricked the Arendellians, had rescued their father on the day of the battle. One of his enemies had helped him escape the forest so he could get home to Arendelle and become king. They had a Northuldra to thank for saving their father. Just then a loud whooshing noise shook them from their thoughts. What is that? Anna asked, looking around suspiciously. The sound seemed to be coming from the trees. As they backed away from the sculpture of Prince Agnar and the girl, the whooshing sound filled the air. Olaf let out a squeal and hid behind Anna, pulling her mother's scarf from the satchel and wrapping it around himself like a blanket as he attempted to hide. The noise continued and was soon joined by a loud banging. The noise got increasingly faster and louder until it seemed to surround them. The tall bushes in front of them trembled and shook. Something was hiding in them. Anna whipped around and cracked an ice sword off one of the sculptures. She held it high, and one swift move swung it down, slicing through the thick shrubbery and revealing a group of Northuldra. They were standing beside a herd of reindeer and held their staffs protectively. More Northuldra dropped from the trees. A young Northuldra woman named Honey Mirren stepped up to Anna and said firmly, "Lower your weapon." She held her staff up, waiting for Anna to comply. But before Anna could react, the clanging of swords slamming against shields pierced the silence. 5 Arendalian soldiers appeared behind the group, poised and ready to fight. A lieutenant stood strong as he faced the Northuldra. His uniform was old and faded, like the uniforms of the other soldiers, but it was clear that he was still very much in charge. And you lower yours," he commanded in a deep voice. Ooh. All right, that concludes chapter 7. We will find out what happens as they are surrounded in battle with the Northuldra and Arendalian soldiers. All right, thank you. Bye.